Hello, welcome to our next interview. I'm excited today to be talking with our guest, Ray Starr, because not only will we be talking about not only a unique form of activism, but really diving deep into the books that Ray has written. I think it's such an opportunity for many of us as we're trying to not only change the world and help people understand the benefits of a vegan lifestyle, but what's great about Ray's books, and I'm really excited about talking today a little bit about the books, maybe not giving away too much because definitely need to read them, um, is the idea to express veganism not just through facts, not just through stats, not just through our journeys, but also through fiction. And the idea, if we want to create this vegan world that we're all after, to have content that becomes welcome, non that is content that allows people to understand and understand the world around them, but understanding it in a different context. And that's what I'm really excited about talking about fiction and using it as a form of activism, this veganism. So before I just tell everything that I'm excited about in today's discussion, I wanted to make sure everyone meets our guest and is equally as excited as I am about talking with Ray today. I'm really excited about talking about not only the work that's trilogy that is in the making around, the books that Ray is writing. Ray, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be speaking to you. This is the first interview that I've had in the States. So, this is my first non British interview. So, it's a biggie.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yep, thanks, Todd. I know you mentioned we're having a little bit of feedback in the microphone. We're going to try to work around it today, but I think we're going to be okay. And then in post-production, we'll remove it. But thanks, Todd, for the heads up. So let's give everyone a little bit of background. Let's give everyone a little bit of background on you as an author and what inspired you to and maybe even give people a little bit of background that it's a trilogy in the making, so maybe give them a little bit of background on your work, when you decided to take this route.
So, this all started for me. I unfortunately lost my dad to pancreatic cancer in 2017. When he was diagnosed, the first thing that doctors said to him to give him a chance of living longer was, the norm that most people were kind of aware of now, but maybe wasn't quite as much back then, was to ditch meat and dairy. Only instead of telling him what he should be eating, they focused on what he shouldn't be eating. And unfortunately, it didn't turn things round quick enough. But it was a huge alarm bells moment for me because I obviously thought, if I was not eating this stuff for breakfast, dinner, and lunch in the first place, then maybe he wouldn't have got it. So it was a real
Mhm.
life-changing thing for me. I signed up for January in 2018, and I've never looked back. But like many people that go vegan, that find out the truth behind the products that we buy, going vegan for me just wasn't enough. I wanted to do more. I was very naive in the sense, I knew what I was eating, I knew what it was, but I never grasped for a second what those animals go through. And I just thought, how can I portray to people what it would be like to be in their footsteps, in their paw prints? What would it be like to live the life of a chicken, of a cow, of, all these poor animals that go through all these awful things. And the idea of activism came to me, but as you might notice as we do this interview, I am awful at public speaking. I'm just
No.
no good at it. Couldn't do it. So, but I'm a good writer. I've worked in PR ever since I was 18. I've had a business ever since my teens, which I, funnily enough, closed last year to focus on writing full time. Um, and yeah, I thought, let's write a story. Let's try and write a book where people can read and enjoy the aspect of it, but hopefully get the subplot, the narrative. And the narrative is um, it's speciesism but reversed, you know. So in the Earthlings world, the trilogy is called Earthlings, the beginning. In the Earthlings world, humans aren't at the top of the food chain. We are very much at the bottom, and an unlikely species is at the top, kind of ruling everything. And it's the journey of a young girl who's magick-born. She doesn't know that she has these gifts, and she has to kind of decide whether to use these gifts to help save humanity, or, you know, is the world better left off if humanity was left where it was, which is the kind of talking point behind the book that I want people to kind of grasp and understand. You know, that unfortunately the world that we live in now, I hate to say, would be better off if we weren't in charge, you know. So rather than that being the grim aspect of it, let's just change the way we do things. You know, let's just do things better, and let's turn this around ourselves rather than being kind of the martyrs of our own story. Let's fix the world instead of destroying it. You know, let's come together, and our world is worth saving, but we're the ones that have got to save it. It's down to us. So that is a kind of message behind the Earthling story. And book one was published in August last year and is doing unbelievably well. I'm still pinching myself, I can't believe it. And book two is out in June, Dominion. So I've named each book within the trilogy after famous animal rights documentaries, again with the hope of kind of inspiring awareness of things that I wasn't aware of before I had my own vegan journey. So people can kind of take what they need from the story and leave the rest.
Perfect. Now, I like that your books are kind of turning the story upside down. You know, the idea that maybe we're not in charge and what the world would be
Yeah,
like if we weren't in
yeah,
charge. And so
yeah,
what are some of those decisions that need to be made? So I think it creates a different perspective when we're thinking about the world. And I think as we're moving forward as vegans, that's what we're asking not only people who maybe have not made the leap to veganism, we're even asking
yeah,
vegans ourselves to look at the world differently. Because for us to
exactly.
have a new world and a new kind of way of life, we can't just look at it the way it was in the past. What kind of feedback
Exactly.
have you gotten from people so far who have read the book? What kind of, responses have
Yeah,
you gotten? Because I'm curious if you've given
that's what I
a moment
can't believe.
and a little resistant.
Yeah, no, this is what I can't believe. So I haven't marketed my book as a vegan book because as much as I want vegans to read it, I really, really do. But they're not the target audience because they've already made those changes. I want, you know, everyday people, we're not everyday people, but, you know, we understand what's happened and we've started making the changes to try and, you know, hopefully make the world a better place. People that are still eating meat are sometimes oblivious, you know, to everything that is going on, you know. So I didn't market it as a vegan book. I wanted omnivores to read it and then hopefully get the message. So in that respect, I've always been scared that the feedback might come back as, you know, it's preachy, la di da di da, and I can't believe I'm still waiting for a negative review. So I can't believe it. So it's been, I think that's been like the most exciting part of this is how open everyone is to change. Like when people do grasp and understand what it would be like if we went through what the animals went through, their instant reaction is, that's not right. What can we do about this? You know, which was the whole point of me writing it. It was my way for me to try and raise awareness for animals, but in a way where people are open to receiving it. So, you know, reading a book about a magical girl who's going on this journey and finding herself and finding out all this scary stuff that she didn't know was happening. And then in amongst all of that, people might pick up the message, and people are picking up the message, which is amazing. So, and a lot of people contact me afterwards, asking for advice on, you know, how to cut out meat and dairy, you know, what products to avoid, or even just shopping cruelty free, you know, which is a great starting point. And then once you have that starting point, it often leads, as it did for me, into taking the full journey, you know. So yeah, it's been amazing that the feedback from non-vegans has been so, just so positive, and yeah, I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled. So the Earthlings message is working.
Oh, that is good. That is good to hear. It's that Dr. Harper stopped by and said that she was really excited about the books and is, excited about, getting
Oh,
these books
thank
for
you.
tweens and teens. So I think that's really great. Thanks for stopping. So, walk me through the difference between the first book, Earthlings,
Yeah,
and then the second
yeah,
book, climate fiction. What's kind of the different focus and, how does it progress as you're going through this trilogy?
sure. So I marketed it as climate fiction. It is climate fiction. There's a big kind of, climate awareness part of the novel as well. Because obviously, as we all know, that's a huge issue we're facing. The country that I live in, if we don't change, realistically, is going to be in the ocean in 10 years. So, you've got to make some changes. But people are open to reading about climate fiction. And my fear was marketing it as a vegan book. Non-vegans would instantly be put off because a lot of people dread, the dreaded V word. A lot of people are put off by that word. Um, so yeah, we marketed it as the climate fiction role, and the book one, it's a child-friendly trilogy. So the hardest part of writing this book for me is reversing the roles in a child-friendly way. How can I explain what a chicken goes through, what a cow goes through, but in a way where 10 plus can read that and not be traumatized, because that's not the point of it. It's not a preachy book. I don't want to upset people. I just want to raise awareness that people can make their own informed decisions from it. So book one does start very tame. It starts off in an almost humorous aspect with an evil chicken named Alan intent on world domination. I had to throw a bit of humor in there as well, because again, the logistics of it, when you reverse that, it isn't funny because of what chickens go through. But by using that species as the um, the evil tyrant, so to speak, it made people open to reading about it. And then as the trilogy gets progressively darker, because it does, um, people are already invested in the story, so they'll want to keep reading. Well, I
Mm,
hope. So yeah, book one is quite light. It's more magic based. I focus more on the dairy aspect, so the humans in the Earthlings world. So the women and the young children, they're kept at what's called AI stations, which is short for artificial insemination stations. But again, for a child that's reading that, I'm not going to explain what artificial insemination is. I don't want to disturb children. That's not the whole point. The term artificial insemination is mentioned once just to describe what AI is short for, but then it's up to that individual reading it if they then want to Google that and look into that themselves and then realize and go from there, you know.
okay.
So, and then
Hmm.
certain scenes with things. Um, so the boys are raised for meat, like like the animals are in modern day society, but not making the scenes gruesome and just mentioning what happens without making it. I don't want it to sound like a scene from Hostel. So it is keeping what should potentially be an 18 story PG, which is the hardest part of writing it. And then Dominion, that is out in June, it does get progressively darker, so we witness some other aspects of what animals go through, the humans are going through, and the readers are going to read that. And I had to make sure that I was factually correct as well, because I don't want to put the humans in the Earthlings world that are going through these things, and then for someone to say, well, actually, that doesn't happen to animals. So the research side of the trilogy has been quite difficult. I've had to speak to slaughterhouse workers, ex-farmers, ex-undercover investigation teams. Yeah, so the research side of it has been quite hard. I've had to watch a lot of things that I don't want to watch, but it's going to happen in the book, and I have to child friendly it, so I have to watch it to then be able to interpret it in that way. And yeah, and then the last book within the trilogy, which will be called A Land of Hope and Glory, which is the most important aspect of the book, is even pointing out all the bad things that we do as humans. There needs to be a solution, because what's the point in pointing out all these things if then at the end we don't say, this is how we do it right. So the end of A Land of Hope and Glory, there's going to be an alternative ending. So the ending will be
Mm,
how we save the world and make it great, or how, if things were just left as they were, what would then happen there. So I've got two endings to write to the trilogy, so that's going to be quite exciting. And yeah, it's a journey for me writing it. It really, really is. It's changed my life in ways I couldn't even fathom possible. It's very different to
that
working in PR. It's my old job.
Oh, I could imagine. Definitely different. And also, I think because that you're writing for, it's different. You don't see a lot of, and I think, Dr. Harper said it well. You don't see as much that not only addresses some of these issues, but doesn't, put animals in positions that we treat it as if it's
Yeah,
a normal thing. I really like that
it's
your book is really
yeah,
challenging that normalcy and challenging the idea that these are things that we
way.
do and maybe we shouldn't be doing. Maybe these are things
Yeah,
that, especially if we were those, we would look at them different. Definitely, we
exactly that.
change our perspective when we put ourselves into the puzzle. But if it can help people see the world differently and also see how we shouldn't be treating animals, I think that's a really good premise and could be a really, really huge help. I just want Gloria stopped by to say hello. So glad you joined us live, Gloria. It's great to have you here. Let us know if you have any questions or feedback, and as well as the Peace Channel has stopped by and just said hello, just supporting, the world peace and world peace diet and so forth.
Well, peace
So
for
very,
all
very happy.
species. We will
Absolutely.
get
I think
there.
that
That's the
I
thing. I
really think
genuinely believe. You go.
No, I really think we will, and especially by having books like yours makes a difference because it allows us to educate different generations. I think
Yeah,
often when we're thinking about the vegan movement, we are trying to decide which generation should we bring to each of the generations and bring it in a way that it's digestible. Bring it in a
yeah,
way that makes the person think, because at times we do need some of those videos. Sometimes we need those things that kind of shock us into awareness, but not every group needs maybe the shock. Some groups need a way
exactly.
to think it through
Some,
differently,
well,
to see, yeah,
yeah,
a different perspective, so that
yeah,
the future that we're not prescribed, we're really helping people see that the future can be
yeah,
different. And I think that's what gets
exactly.
me excited about your books.
It's making a non-light-hearted issue light-hearted, not because it's light-hearted, but because again, it's wanting non-vegan people that aren't all open to this way of life yet, or some people do look at it and think it's too far, it's too extreme, but to genuinely believe that you just haven't put yourself in the space of what's actually happening to these creatures, and then once you're in that space and you understand that, it's impossible not to want to change, because who wants an animal to go through that? I don't think even slaughterhouse workers, like from slaughterhouse workers that I've spoken to, they don't enjoy their job, they don't want to be doing it. It's just a paycheck. I mean, some that I spoke to, they were in bits, like, it's changed their lives forever as a person, which was, it was, nobody wants to do these things to animals. We just need to stop doing it, but in order to do that we need to raise awareness. But in many cases it's raising awareness in a way that A, people are open to it, B, we're not preachy. It's a really big one, because everyone hates, the hashtag preachy vegan. Everyone hates that, but at the same time, it's hard not to be when you just want to scream to the world what's happening and you
Yeah.
want the changes to happen now. And it's a case of being patient, but I genuinely believe it is happening. We are going to turn this round, and we are going to save the world. We are. We are. I know we are. We can't carry on with the narrative that we've got now. It has to stop. And I do genuinely believe, especially with the youth of today who are really open to this. I had to do like school visits to talk about climate change and um, just, job types that you could go into after school that will benefit the planet, as opposed, to creating more, negative carbon footprints and things. And they're just so open, and so many of them already have all these amazing ideas that I haven't even thought of. Some of them I really want to share, but I don't want anyone to steal the students' ideas. Like, they're good, they're going to do it. If we don't do it, they're going to. So there is hope, and we are there, and everything is going to be okay. We
No,
just need to be
I'm
okay a bit quicker. Oh, my
Yes, we definitely
country's
want a
in.
little more speed. And I
Yes.
also, I always want to recognize my folks out there. I mean, because protest and signs and billboards, all those things move the movement forward too. But
Yeah,
it's almost like I'm just a big fan of having messaging that reaches people in different ways, because sometimes people need the shock, But then
Mm,
when they're translating it into action, sometimes they need
mm,
perspective too. When they're trying to
exactly.
figure out how to do it differently. And also, I love having books because books can create dialogue and discussion. And I think even in our society, seeing in even in the last couple of years, it's been harder and harder to have discussions with individuals.
Yeah,
But when you have something like a book, it can be a great space for that dialogue. And I think when we can get not
exactly.
only awareness going, but dialogue going, then it becomes a lot easier for us to figure out how to respond.
Exactly. One of the reviews I got, which was very kind from someone, was it's the perfect way to make the most non-vegan vegan. And that was lovely. That was really nice because that was the whole aim, that was the whole aim. And again, it's just a case of just trying to open people's minds to things, but in a way where they don't realize it's happening. So it's almost like a sneaky form of activism because you're just picking up a book about a girl who's got magic powers and wants to save the world. You don't realize till you're a third of the way into the book why she wants to save the world and what's happening. This evil chicken, Alan, he's very evil. He's a very mean chicken. So I hope he doesn't make people hate chickens. That was my one fear because that's the
Yeah,
opposite of
because
what
we
I want
don't
to
want
happen.
that. That's not
Yeah.
the case.
Peace, love,
But
Alan. Oh, my favorite
absolutely. And
character.
understand Alan. I think that's the other thing. Understand Alan's
Yeah.
perspective and point of view,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
unfortunately, some of us as humans have that point of view. And we have to
Yeah.
be able to understand it and understand those individuals so that we can potentially move them forward. Plus, I love that you're talking about the positive future that we can have, because I think for some of us,
Yeah.
um, the world isn't changing as quickly as we had hoped
Mm.
it would change. So
But
therefore
it
we can
will.
feel some frustration. We can start to feel
Mm.
like, is this going to happen? We can sometimes question ourselves and that doubt can creep in. And I'm really looking forward to your third book because that idea of addressing that that hope, think
Exactly. There
um
are
this is a
solutions.
good
There's
idea.
lots
Yeah,
of
that's the
solutions. We've just got to implement them. And
yeah,
again, all comes down to awareness. We just need more people to know about it. And no matter what form of activism that is, whether it's a book, whether it's protesting, even if it's social media, if it's just sharing something on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, it all makes such a huge difference. I think all that individuals can do is try, and trying is enough. If enough of us are trying, we will turn this round. Governments and corporations, they have to listen because we're the ones, we pay their paycheck, and that's what it all
yeah,
boils down to at the end of the day. So, the big people at the top that we need to listen and implement, like the major changes. If enough of us are making our voices heard, it will happen. So I think it's a really positive
absolutely.
time to be in, even though there's so many bad things going on in the world at the moment, and it can feel like, oh God, hopeless sometimes, like knock your head against the wall, hopeless. At the same time, I think there is so much hope there, and there is so much positivity, and so many people really trying to make a difference. And that's just going to spiral. We've just all got to believe in it and get behind it and support each other, and we will get there. A million
Absolutely.
percent.
So,
I
if people
believe
are
in that.
interested in the book, if they want to get access to it, what's the best way? Do they go to your website? Do they jump on a traditional,
Which
online ordering, go to a local bookstore? How are hands on at least the first two
whichever
books?
you whichever you prefer. So, along with the message behind the Earthlings trilogy, it was really important to me that Earthlings doesn't have a negative carbon footprint. So, something that I'm trying to raise awareness for at the moment, unfortunately, is a lot of the books that we know and love are made from virgin paper, which means trees are cut down for them. I can't write a book about saving the world and cut down 1,000 trees for that book to be out there. It's just hypocritical. I can't do that. So my books are printed on recycled paper with every retailer except Amazon. Unfortunately, Amazon, which is ironic given the name, they don't offer a sustainable printing option. So
Mm,
I also started a campaign called the Read Green campaign. You can head on over to change.org/read green. Um, and it's trying to position Amazon to offer sustainable printing, because at the moment millions of trees are cut down needlessly each year, and there's no need, because you can just use recycled paper. It doesn't impact on the author or the publisher's profit margin. There's just a no-brainer. There's so much excess recycling out there that's a huge issue as part of society as well, and it solves so many problems. So yes, so we're printed on recycled paper everywhere except Amazon. So whether that's Barnes and Noble, I don't know if you have Waterstones over in the USA. I think if you put Earthlings at the beginning, or Earthlings by Ray Starr in Google, anywhere that comes up, just as long as it's not Amazon, yes, help yourself. I would love you to read the book. And I'm planting a tree for every copy sold as well. Again, because whilst it's made on recycled paper, the printing process does still create CO2. And I'm trying really hard to be a carbon neutral author. It's quite important to me. So yeah, we're planting a tree for every copy sold as well. So
Oh,
can't write a book
that's
about saving
wonderful.
the world and not try and save the world yourself. Can't be a hypocrite. So yeah, every little helps.
Absolutely, and I think it also drives awareness of it, because I didn't realize there was even a choice of being able to be printed on recycled paper. For a lot of
Right,
people,
right.
we continue traditions not because sometimes the impact of it. So even it was a aha for me to realize that, hey, we can start requesting this. And then I really love that you're doing a petition to also be able to get Amazon to maybe make some changes so that those
Try.
options are out there. Yeah, yeah,
Again, all we
great.
can do is try. It's all you can do is try. And trying is enough. Gonna get there.
Absolutely. And yeah, and it gets people thinking. I think that's the biggest thing. It gets people thinking, questioning, and I think are met if enough of us speak up. And I think, this book is really focused on helping non-vegans. I think what's the
Yeah.
vegan community is that we can rally your work and also help ensure that more and more taking the route that you're taking, that they're looking for recycled paper, that they're, looking for options like printing. It's about like, planting a tree to offset, because I think some of those decisions are key things that we can do as yourself as an author, key things that we can do
Yeah.
as business owners out there. For many of us, we just need that idea, that spark to help us realize that
Exactly.
we can use our
Yeah.
power and use what we can do. There was a question around, is there a digital version of the book available?
Yeah. So this is the one good thing about Amazon. It's on Kindle as well. So yeah, if you head on over to Amazon, the non-paper print version, Amazon do their ebook as well. So and the ebook's a lot cheaper as well. So yes, both options are
Perfect.
available. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Get in touch with you. Do they go to social media? Because as an
I'd love
author,
to hear.
people, yeah, they'd love to hear about what you're doing, stay in touch with you, and also hear about when the third book comes out in the trilogy. So what's the best way for people to stay in touch?
That would be lovely. I'd love to hear from anyone, any age, anywhere in the world. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. So my website is raystarbooks.com, or you can reach me on my socials. My socials for everything is just Ray Star Books. And that's
Perfect.
Twitter,
Perfect.
Instagram. I'm even on TikTok, but I'm useless. I'm so not good at videos. I'm not very regular on there. I try,
It'll
but not so
it'll
good.
come over time. You never know. But the key is just being out there and getting the word out. So I'm glad to hear that you're on TikTok and you took your
Trying.
toes in there. But it's wonderful to
Yes.
hear about your book. Do some virtual readings from your book. Have you done anything like that? Like a virtual reading where people could tune in and listen to you a little bit from the book?
That's a really good idea, actually. So over here, I've done like a lot of book signings at bookstores and vegan events. So I travel to a lot of different vegan events around the UK doing signings and talks and things, which is really good fun. But no, I've never done a virtual one. That's a really good idea, actually. Thank you, Stephanie. I'll look into that. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Let me know if do that. We'll share it out and let everyone know. But I'm really,
I
really excited that we had a
just need
chance
a better
to talk.
connection.
Actually, the
Oh,
sound has improved like miraculously.
hey,
Now.
there we go. Got there in
Thank
the
you,
end.
everyone that pushed through for us. I really think this is a great session, and it was really great to hear not only about creating books, especially like you said, for that, creating books, generation can read, creating books that are fiction in nature to, build on our creativity and make us think of the world a little bit differently. And I just
Yeah,
want to commend
think
you for
outside
this
the box.
type of activism. It is wonderful,
Thank you.
to definitely hear about what you're doing and how you're helping us kind of think differently.
Trying, and only because I'm so bad at speaking. If I was better at speaking, I probably wouldn't have written the book. I'm just no good at this side of things. My friends call me Nan. I'm 34 and I'm called Nan. What's that about?
Oh, friends always come up with such unique. Oh, and you know what? There
They
was one
do.
I did miss. There was a question about like how do you create, a sense of community, like fellowship around your writing? Because often when it comes to writing, I think one of the
Mm.
challenges is writing about some of these topics are not
Yeah,
always maybe seen as commercially viable. So
yeah.
how did you find a way forward, especially for this type of topic? And then how do you keep yourself going, kind of a supportive environment? Because our world, some a little bit away from writing. We've turned into the 20-second clip,
Yeah.
culture that getting people to not only write but getting people to read a little bit harder. So I'm just curious thoughts about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
So again, hate to say, but this is why I did not market it as a vegan book. The actual main narrative of the story is about this young girl named Peridot. She's raised on an island away from England by a very overprotective mother. Her mother doesn't want her to know the realities of the Earthlings world, and her mother doesn't want her to know that she's magick-born. It was really important for me to include magic as an aspect of the story because that engages a whole community of people out there who love to read and are, really avid kind of promoting about what they read and things online because of their love for fantasy. A lot of people love magic, they love dragons, talking animals and things like that. So it was really important for me that I made that the main narrative with the Earthlings message, the subplot. If that was the biggest debate for me when I wrote the story, was do I include magic or not? Do I just make this about the message, which I did want to do, but I knew by doing that only vegans were going to read the book. And again, vegans already know all of this, they don't need that message. For the people that I want to read it and to try and make these positive changes, I need them to be open to reading this book. So that was where the magical side of Earthlings came to be. It's Peridot discovering that she's got these gifts she didn't know she had, her journey of self-discovery, because her mother is very, very strict. She's never left the island, she's never met another child before. So her first interaction with the Earthlings world is a young boy named Ewan. He escapes the mainland. So he was raised in an AI station, and he managed to escape, and he makes it onto their island. She's never met another boy before. He's knocking on her window trying to get in. He's skinny, he's malnourished. Imagine a calf that's a human. He's deprived of food and nourishment. He's going on about being held in captivity on the mainland. And she does what anyone else in that situation would do, just thought he's crazy, he's mad. She's just rambling,
Mm,
he's going mental. She
yeah.
doesn't believe him. And then one day Ewan disappears. As quickly as he comes into her life, he's gone. And she's desperate to find him. He's the only person outside of her community, of her mother and her mother's two friends, that she's ever met. And then, so she escapes the island, she makes her way onto the mainland. And then that, kind of a third of the way into the book, is when the readers see the actual Earthlings message, what's actually happening. Ewan wasn't crazy. He wasn't making these things up. He really was held captive by an evil chicken named Alan. All these awful things that he spoke about, his mum being used for milk and tied to a machine all day and things, all these awful things really were happening. And then it's watching her reaction, I hope, is also the reader's reaction, because whilst Peridot is seeing these things for the first time, we're seeing it for the first time with her as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm. So we're having
she
that same
wants to
realization moment too.
exactly to get to go on that journey with her, but then at the same time, some people will click, hang on a minute, I feel so sad for these people and these children that are being kept in these conditions. But light bulb moment, that's what we do to animals. And that's where people will either get the message or just love and, well, love, enjoy the story, hopefully, and just be caught up in the story, the magical aspect. That's the kind of gamble that I took. But I had to take that gamble to engage people that aren't vegan. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I'm glad we had a chance to address that because I think a lot of people do wonder, can we have more books like this?
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
others,
Got
the
to,
authors.
got to.
Yeah,
Yeah, got to do
yeah,
it. Have to do it. And there are lots of vegan books out there actually that I had no idea. Vegan fiction is a thing. So climate fiction is a thing. It's got its own hashtag. So cli-fi, which I wasn't aware of until I wrote the book, and that was what enabled me to um, push it as a cli-fi novel. And I was very lucky. And then certain people read it, and it's won a few awards and things, which is amazing. I'm thrilled about that. But vegan fiction is still quite like a niche genre that people don't really know about. And there's some amazing vegan authors out there writing these amazing pieces of fiction, and it's just not mainstream yet. People don't know about it. So have a Google vegan fiction, or see if you've got a local vegan fiction book club. Goodreads is great for that. There's a few brilliant ones on there, and it's a really good place to read these books and have like a discussion about it as well. It's brilliant. And again, a lot of those aren't marketed as vegan fiction for the exact same reason that you could
yeah.
buy that as a Christmas or birthday present, give it to your niece, your brother, your mum, your dad. They can read it and really enjoy it, and then just maybe just pick up the message behind whatever the story is and start making some changes, and let's make this world a better place again.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think there's such an amazing place for fiction to create thought. And
Yeah,
also correlation. Dr. Harper put in a point here about, how sometimes when we read these stories, we start to understand how there's history around things that we've done, not just
yeah,
the world, but what we've done even to African Americans, what we've done
yeah,
around slavery.
100%.
It's just
Yeah,
some horrendous things. And a lot of
yeah,
people put it in their past. They try to, say, well, that wasn't me. But we have to
yeah,
remember
yeah,
capacity for that level of evil and those
exactly.
mistakes that have been made,
Yeah,
so we don't continue to do that, even in a microaggression way. Maybe it's not the same that it
exactly.
was done in
Yeah,
slavery time. Can do this. People can carry forward those same activities in our lives and hold people back. So I really think there's such a great
exactly.
correlation between how hurt animals, how we've impacted, African Americans and Black on why,
Yeah,
but really huge here in the US. So it's really
yeah,
great to have books like this to get us to start
yeah.
thinking, to get us that these correlations exist and that we really have to change the way we act, the way we interact, and the way we treat really all beings. So so glad Breeze mentioned that point, and I'm so glad we had a chance
For a
to
lot
talk
of
today.
people,
I know we went over a
I was
little
gonna
bit
say for
longer than
a lot of
usual.
people. Sorry, it's a speed difference. I was just going to say for a lot of people as well, it's not even the past, it's still the present, it's still happening all across the world. The situation, with Yemen and other countries, there's some really awful things going on in the world at the moment. I'm so blessed that I'm not a part of that. But not talking about it, not bringing it into conversation matter is what is allowing it to continue. Because if everyone knew that it was happening, we would stand up and we would stop it. We would make it stop somehow. So these conversations, as uncomfortable as they are, if there's any way to get it into a topic matter, you know what, just do it, because we can't be silent anymore. We've reached a stage now, where voices have to be heard, and we have to be the best that we can be so that we can turn this around.
Perfect. Perfect kind of reminder to everyone and a perfect place for us to wrap up today's interview. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad
Thank
we had a
you for
chance
having
to
me.
talk. Thank you so much for giving us some spoilers there in the book, but it was just wonderful to hear the story. It's got me Thanks so much, Todd, for joining us. I'm really glad you joined us
Thank
and
you.
enjoyed the interview. And thank you, everyone who joined us. It's wonderful to have you here, Todd, Dr. Breeze, Michael West, Gloria, where we had you join earlier. It's always wonderful live. So we are glad you're here to join us for our next session. So thank you, everyone who also maybe watches this as a replay. We always think it's great for you to jump in and watch these interviews. It's wonderful to be able to show you really vegans who are taking their professional skills and helping spread the movement. While we tend to talk with a lot of entrepreneurs at times, it's so today with you as an author, because it not only shows another professional track for us. It was really exciting that, vegan in fiction is a thing, and
It is
is
a
a thing
thing.
should be paying attention. And I also think it creates great opportunity. It was wonderful, like you were saying, that, making the decision between creating a story that has that magic, that messaging, can create some commercially viable books that people will support
Yeah,
and we can get out there in the world. So it's been wonderful having you for this interview. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we'll
very
see
much.
everyone in our next interview. Yeah. Goodbye.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone.